Hello, everyone. It's been a week since Bruce Willis announced his retirement from acting. He's dealing with a condition called aphasia, and that's really sad. The news hit me hard as a Bruce Willis fan. I remember watching Bruce Willis ever since I was a kid with Die Hard. It used to come out on HBO every July 4th. I used to watch Luke Who's Talking. We had Fifth Element come out around 97. My brother always used to watch 12 Monkeys. My mom would always love watching Moonlighting. And it was kind of hard, hearing that news. And I wasn't going to talk about the retirement because it's kind of weird because, even though a person may not be the person they were in a mental state as far as recognition and stuff, it's weird talking about a person who is still alive in a way, but acting like they've passed away already. And that's just very weird. And it's kind of hard talking about it, really. I wasn't going to do a video. It took me about a week, but I was going to try to find my top 10 favorite Bruce Willis films. And I can't really narrow it down. So instead, I just wanted to celebrate Bruce Willis's filmography, talk about my memories. And I encourage everyone out there, share your memories. What are some of your favorite Bruce Willis movies? Some of your favorite underrated movies that you feel don't get recognition? There's stuff like Bonfire of the Vanities. There's stuff like Sunset with James Garner and him that is just underrated, They don't really talk about those films very often. I love Hudson Hawk. Even though critics just trashed it when it came out, I think that's a very underrated movie. Last Man Standing, The Last Boy Scout, The Jackal. There's just so many movies. But I have to say, thank you, Bruce Willis. If you're out there, thank you for all your hard work in film. Bruce Willis has left us a lifetime worth of movies and performances. And even though he's kind of gone straight to DVD stuff later in his career, there's still so many movies, both action-packed yet dramatic, on the small screen and the big screen, so many performances that he left us, that he earned this retirement. Really, I hope you enjoy the time you have, and my prayers and thoughts are with you and your family right now as you're dealing with this condition. And I know many people out there, you may have had a relative who suffered a stroke and then had a condition that's basically aphasia, It's sad because it's like a person is still there, but the recognition's not there. So it's like a person's dead without being dead, and that's just tragic. I can't think of it. But I guess going with Bruce Willis, I think the first Die Hard I saw was actually Die Hard with a Vengeance. And then that's what got me curious about Die Hard and Die Hard 2. But as I said earlier, my brother used to love watching 12 Monkeys. I think the first Bruce Willis film I saw in theaters, my parents took me to go see Armageddon. That was a big deal in 1998. I have an anniversary retrospective going over that movie and what that year was like. And yeah, that was quite something, really. It really was. I love that. And, he had The Siege with Denzel Washington. He had The Jackal. Mercury Rising is a fantastic movie. HBO is also another place where I discovered what is kind of a popular sci-fi film now, even though back then I felt like it was underrated, and that is Fifth Element. I love The Fifth Element. That is just an all-time great. Early TV memories. Later on, I saw early in his career Return of Bruno. You had that album there, but my mom loves Moonlighting, or at least the first couple of seasons before it was all a dream, And another performance, though, I saw early in his career that I feel like is underrated. He played a character in season 1 of Miami Vice. He plays a very brutal, mean, abusive husband. He's very much against his type back then. Very different from Moonlighting, let me tell you that. Very underrated performance from Bruce Willis. And of course you have the Die Hards, what I say is not only the greatest Christmas movie ever made, but the greatest action film ever made with John McClane. That first movie alone is fantastic, but Bruce Willis gave it his all in all the entries. Even though 2 and 5 may not be the best, you gotta appreciate what was initially the trilogy, Die Hard with a Vengeance. He knocked it out of the park with Die Hard with a Vengeance. And who could forget Live Free or Die Hard years later? Just when I thought he was too old or that it was too much time, that movie just knocked it out of the park. 5 Wasn't the best, but you know, Bruce Willis was not the weak link of that movie. The story was. He made that movie. You know, with Papa Smurf comments, and it's like the shit we do for our kids, you know. Who could forget the iconic moment we had in The Expendables with Arnold, Bruce Willis, and Sly? Growing up, too, I remember Planet Hollywood being a restaurant. Short lived, but I love the partnership they had and what they created there. Going with Die Hard, I was also preview to Bruce Willis on video games back in the PS1. We had the Die Hard trilogy 1 and 2, but a video game that actually used his voice and likeness I feel like doesn't get talked about much anymore is Apocalypse. That was an underrated game where they got an actor and made an original story in the video game medium. And you know, stuff like that and Wing Commander were very much ahead of the curve when it came to like entertainment and like stories, long narrative storytelling into the gaming medium, you know, like into video games. Before Until Dawn, before Detroit Become Human, you know, those games kind of pushed the envelope a bit, even though the technology wasn't quite there yet. I love seeing him as General Joe Colton in G.I. Joe Retaliation, Looper with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, iconic movie. He has stuff like Cop Out where it's just like behind the scenes stuff, but who could forget Sixth Sense and Unbreakable? Those two movies blew me away, and it's crazy to think that Glass now is the last Bruce Willis movie I saw in theaters. But in a way, it's a bittersweet ending to a wonderful career, you know? And then, of course, who could forget Look Who's Talking? Not the first time he was with John Travolta. We also have Pulp Fiction and Samuel Jackson. Like Sam Jackson, John Travolta, and Bruce Willis, that would be a very easy game to like kind of go 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you know? And then you have Death Becomes Her, wonderful film and performance from Bruce Willis with Meryl Streep. You also have Sin City, one of the greatest comic book movies. I love the kind of like neo-noir storytelling in both 1 and 2 with Dame to Kill For. Another underrated film that's almost like Die Hard 4 before Die Hard 4, and that is Hostage. I feel like Hostage is a criminally underrated movie. A lot of language, but Bruce Willis is fantastic in that. And then you also have Bandits with Billy Bob Thornton and Cate Blanchett. That is a highly underrated movie. And then one of my personal favorites from director Jonathan Lynn is The Whole Nine Yards. The Whole Nine Yards is hilarious with Matthew Perry. The whole 10 Yards, like I still can't forget the second film where he's just like, my ass hurts, and then Bruce Willis like he fell down a flight of stairs, and then Matthew Perry opens a door and you're just like, wait, there's no stairs. And he has like this look, and then Bruce Willis plays off the comedy like brilliantly. Like that's one thing about Bruce Willis is that he could go dramatic, he could be like action-packed, be the everyday man hero, but then he could also like pull off comedy. Even when he's like parodying himself with like John McClane in Loaded Weapon 1, you know? I feel like his comedy is so underrated, and then his performance on the episode of Friends. And then we have 16 Blocks, one of the last Richard Donner movies with Mos Def. That was also another brilliant performance from Bruce Willis. He's just one of those actors where you just, even if you don't watch all his movies, you know who Bruce Willis is. And he just had a personality and aura about him that lit up the screen. And I'm going to miss it, but I'm thankful that we got to live in a time where Bruce Willis existed, where we got to see his contributions to cinema. He's never going to be forgotten. Bruce Willis is going to live up in the annals of cinema the same way that John Wayne does, that Clint Eastwood does, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, Bruce Willis is an icon. And with everything, I just feel thankful to be able to look back at his filmography and have so much to choose from, so much to enjoy. And there's a couple of films coming out that were straight to video, about 8 of them. I did not like the flack that the Razzies gave him towards the past couple of years, but you never know what somebody's going through. And no matter what happens, high or low moments, what you like or dislike, you can never take away the great things that people have done, you know? And I even enjoyed his remake of Death Wish. I'm a huge fan of the Charles Bronson franchise, and I thought Eli Roth did a great job with Bruce Willis in that movie. And, I just feel sad right now, but I feel thankful. And I wish Bruce Willis the best. And I wish his family and everyone the best. And hopefully they have time for some happy memories. That's a tough condition to deal with, and I can't imagine. And I feel like Bruce Willis deserves better. But I think all we can do as cinephiles, as Bruce Willis fans, is just appreciate the work he's done and just thank him. Like, he's done films that people would love to do, more than some people have done in their lifetimes. And not just like one film, I'm talking about many films. People would be lucky to have one of those films in their filmography, and he has them stacked up, So yeah, those are just my brief Bruce Willis memories. I know it's a bit scattered, but it's really difficult to talk about this because, like, he's one of my favorite actors. I love his films. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. Who could forget about Red 1 and 2? Retired, extremely dangerous. And he shows us that even though you're old, you still can learn new tricks. And I love those movies. Underrated DC comic adaptations as well. Love his work with John Malkovich in that. And then he has some cameos in Ocean's 12. That was funny, where he played himself. Yeah. But, yeah, those are just my memories. And I want everyone out there, discuss your memories, share your favorite Bruce Willis moments or films down below. If I missed some, let me know down in the comments below. And feel free to have a discussion with each other, Let's talk about Bruce Willis and celebrate his work, okay? I might watch me some Die Hard and Pulp Fiction later on, but I just wanted to make this video. But it took me a while. Our icons are going, and it kind of sucks, to be honest. But at a time like this, you have to look at a silver lining of everything, and I'm just grateful that we have his filmography. Anyway, share your favorite Bruce Willis moments and movies down in the comments below. Let's celebrate him down in the comments. In the meantime, you can subscribe for more videos and check out these other Bruce Willis related videos for more content. Yeah, it's the end of an era, but you know what? I'm glad we were here to experience it. And famous words, yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers.